The views and opinions expressed by this program's hosts, guests, listeners, and viewers are solely the views and opinions of the original source who expresses them. They do not necessarily represent the views and opinions of TV5 Network Incorporated, its subsidiaries and affiliates, and their respective stockholders, directors, officers, and employees.
Sounding off from Los Angeles, the undisputed king of podcasting, who's all about the good times, Mo Twister. Representing New York City, a social media mobster and co-creator of the Not Bill Walton Twitter feed, Chris Savage. All the way from Sydney, Australia, a basketball media veteran and unapologetic cultural critic, Bradford Graham. Holding it down from Manila, a seasoned sportscaster with the studio skills to pay the bills, Jinno Rufino. This is Full Court Report.
Welcome to the Full Court Report. It is our last episode for the year 2015. It's nice to have you guys join us. We are four guys in four different cities sharing our opinion on basketball. Hi, my name is Mo. I am in Los Angeles. We have Chris Savage right over there in New York City. Sydney, Australia has Brad Graham. And in studio, again, subbing in for Jinno, who's still out of town on holiday. We have Jutt Sulit. Justin, nice to have you back here in Manila, Philippines.
Good to be back,
this
guys.
episode.
Thank you.
All right, let's get it going. Here we go. Let's go to quarter number one. We have 12 minutes on the clock. Brad, let's start with you again in Australia. You have control of the ball here. Where are you going with it?
Sure. I'm sure you guys saw this, but Kobe Bryant on his season-long farewell tour, I guess, made his visit to Charlotte, North Carolina, the team that drafted him 20 years ago before swapping the rights. I guess Jerry West really wanted the high schooler and took the kid away and gave them Vlade Divac in return. Some people have called this one of the most lopsided trades in history. It's really hard to argue against that given what Kobe has done, obviously, for this team. And the one and only Michael Jordan phoned in a nice little message for Kobe and sort of thanked him for, his service to the game. And I quote here, Jordan actually said, I always been like a big brother to you, and you're like a little brother to me. I thought that was, just a little insulting personally, but I think that was necessary for Jordan to sort of have to call him little brother and pat him on the head and, rub his hair like like some sort of, brother does. But I do think Jordan sort of was right to sort of say that, Kobe's helped the NBA, he's helped promote it. And the fact that Jordan sort of recognized Kobe and said that he's a big fan and he likes watching him play and acknowledged that Kobe has fans all over the globe, I thought was a nice touch. Julius Randle was in awe of the fact that, bumping Kobe on the bench saying, hey, man, that was Michael Jordan. So I thought that, that was really nice. But Kobe seemed to take it all in stride. And I guess, wanted to sort of find out whether you guys essentially caught what happened in Charlotte, whether you think Kobe would be as revered as he is. Had if he'd stayed with Charlotte, did market have something to do with how much we love Kobe? And what do you sort of take away from the fact that Charlotte ended up trading his rights 20 years ago? You think you want to take that one back?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a great deal, but Kobe, if he played in Charlotte, he would have came to a bigger market regardless. So it's kind of a nice story that Kobe's playing all 20 years with one franchise. It wouldn't have happened if he went to Charlotte, because I don't believe he would have made it to 20 years there.
Yeah, certainly. So and kind of going back to this Jordan message, was this the right thing? Do you think this was enough? Do you think that maybe Jordan should have kind of done it in person? Is a video a little bit of a? You're not worthy of an in-person handshake. Any of these things, are we gonna read into any of this stuff? Because you were reading into the whole, hey, I'm your big brother, you're my little brother, and we go, oh, okay, that means something. It might mean something, might not mean something. Does a video mean something instead of doing it in person? That's his team.
The thing is that Jordan almost went out of his way to say, hey, Kobe, you've got my number, you can call me. And I figured, is that number like 1-800-6-RINGS? What was the actual point of sort of saying that you can call me? It's it seemed like there was this kind of maybe what should have been a private message was kind of aired publicly. Maybe the PR department kind of rushed this out. Jordan not being in the arena, maybe that can be read into. But, I think we talked about this a little bit before the show kind of got underway. But, Jordan is a businessman. I'm sure he has priorities. And this isn't actually family. Man. Yeah, he
Well,
is a
don't you think that
businessman.
maybe like showing up, if I showed up in person, then I would kind of solidify that Kobe meant, or that it mean that he was almost where I am in level, in career and achievements and legacy.
I get that.
That you're not good enough for me to spend like face to face. Listen, Jordan goes to the games. He goes to those Charlotte games.
Right,
Yeah, but what did you
He's
want
just
him
going to
do?
skip the
I mean,
one.
What did you want him to do? Show up and play him one-on-one? I don't understand.
No, I don't want him to do anything. I could care less about this moment, to be honest. I mean, who cares about the farewell tour doesn't really kind of tickle my fancy. What I'm saying is that these are two players that have been compared so often in at least Kobe's career, and maybe showing up. If Michael showed up, it would have kind of justified or give it credibility that these guys were equals at one point, or it's just okay. You're as good as a Videotron message, and that's about it, buddy. Call me
It
if you need
feels
me.
like such a Jordan thing to do. Like, I mean, to string it back to him. Like at one point, he said that Charlotte will always be a part of Kobe just because they drafted him. But what really which part of Kobe's career, aside from that, strings back to Charlotte? So it's,
Yeah,
I think-
Denver is a bigger part of
Josh-
Kobe's career than Charlotte is.
The one thing that he's always done is he's always released the colorway of his shoe in Charlotte colors, just to sort of tease the fans year after year, as it's almost to say, hey, you can wear the colors of Charlotte, but you'll never see me dead in them. So I think that it's really interesting that Kobe has this sort of weird attachment to a city that he never played in. What's interesting too, when the game finally got underway after all the jumbotron messages, Kobe shot 5 from 20, 3 from 12 from downtown. Like, he didn't exactly sizzle. I mean, Kobe only finished with 20 points. Took him 20
That's his
shots
best
of
game
course,
of the
as I
year.
just mentioned.
It's like we don't expect him
game
to
of the year.
sizzle.
I mean, look,
Listen, I'm more disappointed that Larry Johnson and Alonzo Mourning didn't give him a video message. That would have been sweet.
the original Hornets, you're saying, should have come out of the woodwork and
With their
whatever.
sweet ass
But-
jerseys.
Yeah, right. Who loves the teal? But I guess this sort of brings up a bigger point here, or maybe more of an overarching theme, is that we've seen Kobe and Mike compared. Kobe spent his whole life chasing Mike, imitating him, replicating him, trying to sort of win the 6 chips, do the fist pump just like Mike. I mean, basically tailored everything that he did, and was the best carbon copy we've ever seen, or the best photocopy, depending on how cruel you want to be with your comparisons. Is Kobe the rightful heir, or are we sort of, I mean, I wrote about recently, for a Slam Online article that should be published soon, that Kobe was more than just a bridge between Jordan and LeBron, but is Jordan the true LeBron the true heir to Jordan, or is Kobe actually, where do we stand on having Jordan between who
The
he's
better
actual?
piece of that is this the last great mid-range player we'll see when we're seeing such a rise of the three-pointer? I mean, that's the better question. Who is he bridging a gap to? Maybe no one, because LeBron's already doing his thing and a different type of player, but we're going to see more and more players just become these lights out three-point shooters who are great. So this might be an end of an era, to be honest with you.
Right. So rather than being a bridge, he's the close of a chapter. It's kind of like the
Yes.
last of the 90s, sort of, the last of an era of sorts, of a style of play, of the mid-range shooting guard.
Though
Man,
Kobe
look,
does
you
have
could be right, though. I mean,
the Kobe does have the record of most threes in a single game, right? I mean,
does.
it's the
Yeah.
comedy
Sure,
behind
sure.
that, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, Kobe's never been shy to sort of pull the trigger. I mean, that's been one thing that Kobe's made a career out of, is that he's never seen a shot he didn't like, even when Shaq had the ball. I'm sure he was trying to sort of, it should have been a pick. He was trying to actually take the ball out of Shaq's hands. But,
Right.
it's one of those things that, I think it's just interesting that we've sort of now got this case where LeBron's career isn't defined. Kobe seems to be. And maybe, Jordan sees more of himself in Kobe. But the truth is that in terms of popularity and in terms of sort of cultural impact, and just in terms of sort of, his overall game, in terms of being a revolutionary, I think, LeBron is maybe Jordan's, equal, or at least the follow-on, the sequel, if you will.
Yeah,
But
for
Jordan
sure.
seems to always pick Kobe. But Jordan seems to always side with Kobe. maybe because he seems to
and I
imagine
would
himself
side
in
with
it,
Kobe on this one as well. And I'm not even that big of a Kobe fan. I think Kobe is probably the closer resemblance, not even just in style, but in just all around greatness than LeBron is. And I know that probably pissed somebody like Chris off or something like that, but I really do believe so. I mean, Kobe has come back from scandal after scandal to become superstar. You think it'd be the end of him, and but yet again, his stardom, his ability to win, his ability to overcome public relation disasters just shows how much of a global and just polarizing figure he was, aside from the on the court stuff. And the on court stuff was awesome. So I think you got to put him, I don't know where we're going to put him, and maybe this is going to be a question we're going to answer as this episode. I mean, as the season goes along, where do we put him? All time. But I think he finishes.
Where does he fit historically?
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't Kobe still a bigger international star, global star than LeBron is? Or am I way off base? Yeah, that's what I thought.
I would say so. Yeah.
If he's top 11, Kobe's top 11.
11.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's such an interesting. It could be 8, 9, 10. I think 8, 9, 10, and 11 are so close to each other. I'm not going to rank them. He's top 11.
Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. The one advantage that Kobe does have currently is that we've actually got a complete career. Like, because the fact that LeBron's career is still being defined, it's a little harder to find his actual place. I mean, LeBron could be as high as 5 or 6, but he could probably be as low as 15, depending on sort of how you want to judge just a 12 years served versus an 18 or a 20 years served. So
I only see LeBron kind of leapfrogging Kobe's if he can bring a championship to Cleveland, just because.
Right. So you're saying it's not the number of titles; it's the quality of titles.
Right. I mean, you kind of almost. I don't want to throw out the Miami titles, but there was a super team over there, and I would like to see kind of Kobe. I like to see Kobe 5-time champion with one franchise. I think the only thing that would trump that is if LeBron brings a title to the city that doesn't taste that kind of success. Then maybe we can kind of get him over there. But aside from that,
it was amazing that Kobe brought 5 titles to the Lakers since they've never won before. I mean, what are we talking about here? He has to win in Cleveland for him to have overall greatness. I disagree with that, but
I think he does because he's got less talent around him in Cleveland this year. Obviously, he's got some superstars there, but they have yet to kind of solidify themselves as 3 superstars.
No one in Cleveland is as good as Dwayne Wade at his peak. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. But here's something I did want to sort of find out. I mean, you talked about Kobe and obviously the fact that he did win on his own. Shaq had left. That was a Titan team. But the only reason Kobe was even back in the finals after Shaq left is because they hijacked Pau Gasol from the Grizzlies, which brings up a point. If the Hornets hijacked Kobe, and if exactly. I mean, Kobe seems to be surrounded by all of these sort of highway robberies now. Okay, the Powell thing, the Kobe thing, both teams
even trade now. Even trade Pau Gasol, Marcus Al.
Even trade now, but not back then when Pau was putting rings on and Mark wasn't doing anything.
What do you want him to do?
Hey, all I'm saying is here's what I want to know. Here's what I want to know. What are some of your other favorite hijackings that NBA teams have done to other teams over there? Who's been ransacked? Who basically has been stealing, talent from elsewhere? I think the Pau Gasol trade was a hijacking. And so, in the same way that I think Charlotte didn't get, due return for Kobe, but some of this needs to be played out. So
first one on my mind. Sorry, you go, Chris, first, and then I'll go after.
Yeah, Chris, who you got? Because
go ahead. No, I want to hear.
Well, I got one. I got Dirk and Tractor Trailer. Dirk Nowitzki and Robert Tractor Trailer as kind of that's the first one that comes up to my mind, just because I mean you can fine. Divock's got his number retired and all that stuff. He was a fairly decent player, and maybe even better than fairly decent. He was a good player. Trailer was nothing, and to trade kind of for Dirk, that's robbery for me.
Well, I think the Pau Gasol trade was just good karma for giving away Shaq to Miami.
What do you mean give him away? What are you talking about?
Who did they get? Lamar and Caron?
They got Lamar Odoms. They got
Caron.
A bunch of pieces.
And Brian Grant.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that but why was Shaq run out of town in the first place?
Right.
I think there's more to that story than just the trade.
Yeah. Maybe giveaway wasn't the right term, but it wasn't a fair trade as well.
Oh gosh, I don't know about that.
Here's what I was going to say. Here's an interesting one for you, though, in terms of sort of trades that ended up sort of being really, really lopsided. I just want to close on this one. The Clippers sent the number 1 pick and Baron Davis to Cleveland for Maurice Williams and Jamario Moon in 2011. That number 1 pick, Kyrie Irving.
Ooh, Baron Davis is a part of that? Is that before he ate himself out of the league?
Well, yeah, this is the thing. Baron, obviously, whatever happened there. But all I'm saying to you is that the unprotected pick went to Cleveland. They ended up getting number 1. If the Cavs win the title this year and does what Mo wants to do, which is LeBron bring the parade to downtown Cleveland, man, it's all going to come back to that 2011 trade and the Clippers, man.
Does David Robinson being injured in 1997 count as highway robbery to get Tim Duncan? I think that's robbery.
That's
right.
tanking.
That's a good point.
Something
Guys,
else.
we're way over time here in the first quarter, and that just kind of shows that we got a lot to talk about here as we end our year on the full court report. Let's take a break. When we come back, we have our second quarter. See you guys in a few minutes. Back after this.
He has made viewers laugh with his funny antics and awesome style in comedy. He has also been in quite a few headlines himself. Well, funny man Arnel Ignacio loves good times too. Curious if he has funny secrets he'd like to spill? Then head on to www.tv5.com.ph/originals and watch Good Times with Mo. Thursday, 9 p.m. on Digital 5. Call us on our hotline, also on Viber and Skype.
Back on the full court report, it is the last episode of the year 2015 for us, and we are going to be looking back at some of the great stories of this year with Chris in New York City. Chris, you have quarter number 2, and you have 12 minutes to go with it. What do you got, buddy?
All right, fellas, I'm going to take this quarter to speak about most memorable off-court moments of the past year. So we're going to get into things that happen off the court. Now, clearly, one of those is the Kobe Bryant retirement. We spent a lot of time at length of that in the first quarter, and I'm sure we'll speak about it a little more, not just this episode and going forward. So I will mention it now and then really not get into it anymore this quarter. So the first one I'm going to bring up is back in July during the offseason, DeAndre Jordan. He verbally committed to play for Mark Cuban and the Mavs. After a pajama party with his teammates, DeAndre Jordan had a change of heart and formally re-signed with the Clippers. So the Mavs essentially went from getting DeAndre Jordan to getting JaVale McGee, if you look at it that way. That's like Cuba Gooding Jr. going from starring in Jerry Maguire to starring in Boat Trip. But I just kind of want to take a look back before we talk about going forward into 2016 and beyond. With DeAndre and him having a change of heart, do you think it was a case of him just being scared to be the guy, if you will, the number one guy in Dallas? Why do you think he jumped ship there from the Mavs and decided to re-sign with the Clippers?
Oh man, that's a very, very interesting topic, Chris. Only because I don't think that DeAndre was ready. I think it's one of those things where he made the commitment and then got completely scared. I don't know if it's stage fright or what basically the way it is that you want to sort of describe it here, but yeah, I think that he realized that once all the spotlight was going to be on him, he never wanted it. I don't think he's ever been that guy. I mean, yeah, man, it was such an interesting turn, and the fact that Steve Ballmer and Doc Rivers and these guys sort of went in on the cover of night and sort of kidnapped him back says something else again altogether. It was like there was like this power play between these two owners and these general managers and all this sorts of stuff, and maybe DeAndre Jordan was just some sort of pawn in the middle of it all. But oh man, I still I'm a little dumbfounded and a little. I haven't quite come to terms with what DeAndre Jordan was even thinking or doing, or all these text messages and Cuban threatening to leak this stuff, and it was just it was crazy from top to bottom, man.
Do you think that he was going to be in the spotlight though? Isn't this still Dirk's team, and kind of especially in the twilight of Dirk's career, performing at the level that he's performing in? They were also bringing in Wesley Matthews. They were just bringing in pieces, and he wouldn't have been kind of the spotlight guy. Obviously, he wasn't going to be an offensive option, at least in the first 3. So maybe it's not being scared away. I mean, the guy plays in Los Angeles, I mean, Lob City. He's kind of heart and soul. Him and Blake are heart and soul of that Lob City kind of thing they have going on over there. Maybe it's not a spotlight thing. Maybe it was, hey, you know what? I'm a little pissed off at Chris Paul, and I'm leaving. And then when he leaves, realize, you know what? That's pretty stupid because we can fix this. And all of a sudden, guess what? The guys are at his house, and he's changing his mind. They've got a better chance of winning a championship in Los Angeles than they do in Dallas, and maybe it was those things that kind of said, okay,
let's talk about that. So he might have had an issue with Chris Paul. It was resolved over a slumber party with a bunch of teammates. So the next question is, you look at the Clippers this year, and they're having makeup problems. They're having internal problems. Is there any stock in there? Maybe they're still not gelling like they were supposed to. Is there issues between Paul and DeAndre? Is it Paul in general?
What do they say, Chris, that the first breakup never takes? It's one of those things you got to break up with someone 3 times before you're actually.
Don't I know better than on that one.
I don't know.
I think we all want Dallas to finish it ahead of the Clippers at the end of the season. They're only a game and a half out right now, and it would just be a great kind of FU to the Clippers there, but. Yeah, it'd be wonderful. And I don't know what the problem is in the Clippers. I don't think it's a chemistry thing maybe with them. It's just they don't have winners on that team. And again, that we're off topic now because we're going to dissecting the Clippers. But I think the reason why the DeAndre left was possibly, left Dallas to go back to the Clippers was championship, and these problems that we have are fixable, and let's go ahead and fix it and win that ring. I don't think it has anything to do with spotlight or anything like that.
So moving forward on this, should the NBA change their policy on verbal agreements? What should be done about that? Because that was a stink on their face a little bit.
Sure. No, I think they should. I think verbal agreement is a gentleman's agreement, is also a verbal contract. But I know that the terms there are different.
But we're talking tens of millions of dollars. I think it's only right to have a cooling off period or like a week long window to have to go home, talk to your family, consider it. I mean, you're talking about these people moving cities, moving lives, moving essentially.
Sure, but it affects teams though, Brad. Wherein they think I got center checked off.
No, I think if you make a verbal agreement during the season, I mean, we don't know what phone calls go on between GMs. I mean, you hear about this all the time. Oh, I heard, especially when it comes to the draft and the offseason, I'm going to go here. This team really wants me. I worked out for this team. And then all of a sudden, you see these guys have no interest or they've moved in a different direction. I mean, DeAndre Jordan committing to Cuban, I mean, if he'd signed a contract and then took him to court to get out of it, that's a different story. But to sort of say, hey, I want to go to the Mavs, they made me an offer, the Clippers then matched it. I mean, we see this all the time. I mean, do you think the Thunder really wanted to pay Enes Kanter, what is it, $60 million? No, but Paul then made him the offer. They had to match. So there's a number of rules, I think, when it comes to free agency or to, contract negotiations that could probably be amended slightly. But I think these guys need time to sort of go, hey, the offer looks good. Give me a week. Let me think about it. Like any new job, or any new situation, I think, you do need to, anyone who signs on the dotted line and is beholden to that, it sounds like one of those.
But he didn't say think about it. He said he was going to take it, though. So there's kind of a difference there.
Agreement is agreement. Yeah. When it's verbal agreement, it's a damn agreement. And most are gentlemen. And if you don't do it, you're just not a gentleman. But hey, you can't legally hold them to that. So, I think they should switch it up because it's a stink on the NBA worst case scenario. So that kind of got me a little bit. But moving on to another topic, we spoke about this in the past, and I just want to recap. The past year we've seen a few coaches lose their jobs or come close to losing it. I know we'll speak about Boogie Cousins and George Karl a little later, and also I'm sure a bunch of times later. But even Kevin McHale and Tom Thibodeau, they lost their job based on what was perceived to be issues from their stars who didn't want to have them coaching anymore. So it's really uncomfortable relationships. And these team owners obviously cater to these superstars. They bend over backwards for their high-priced talent as if they're at a Las Vegas strip club. So, my question to you is if the players won't play for a coach, are these firings justifiable? Were these firings that we saw last year justifiable if the players won't play?
Chris,
go ahead, Brad.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brad.
No, I was just going to say the wrinkle to me is everyone on the OKC Thunder loved Scotty Brooks and we're going to sort of take a grenade for that guy. And then he got canned. I mean, it's the reverse of what happened in all these other situations. Well, Scotty never lost the locker room, and yet they fired him because of performances, because KD was hurt or because they wanted a different direction whatever the case may be.
And he was a bad coach, and he was a strict.
But his proficiency or prowess or whatever what you want to say in terms of his coaching, his tacticianship and all that sort of stuff isn't really sort of what's I think derailed him.
But Thibodeau was a solid coach, and he was gone. There was locker room quarrels. We saw McHale, even though the Rockets are better. Essentially, so take someone like Brooks out of it. If a player won't play for the coach, if the players won't play for a coach anymore, does that mean that automatically he should be fired? There should be no argument about it.
Well, we were talking about the changes in the game, right? We brought up the 3-point thing. We in the past episode, we kind of touched on it earlier today. I think this is just part of the change of the game. It's that, hey, listen, the coaches' jobs are less secure than ever before because of this kind of cultural thing of superstar gets his way. And I think we're just going to have to accept it. Coaches are going to go into their contracts. They're going to agree to this thinking, well, I can get fired if I don't get along with blank. And that's just this is how the game is now. And I think they know that going into it.
Long-term contracts then to have these coaches implement their system and stick behind them, or you just think that is just something that's just not going to happen?
I don't think it's going to happen, or I think the contracts are going to be there, but it's going to say in the contract that if we feel like we're going to pull the plug, we're going to pull the plug. We see this on television shows, right? I mean, you guys watch TV shows. It airs one episode, never gives it a chance to kind of pick up. Boom, gone already. Because the ratings aren't good enough. So it is the culture now, I think, of not just basketball, of everything. We want immediate success, and if we don't get it, there is going to be one person to blame, and all that blame goes to the head coach these days.
Chris, sometimes I feel like this stuff has nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with business, or more importantly, everything to do with expectations in the situation. So I think context plays a big part. The situation with the Rockets is McHale took them to the conference finals, big surprise. No one saw that coming. And then they show up to the next training camp a couple of months later. Some players are out of shape. Some players are disgruntled. And it seems like them breaking from basketball was what hurt them. I mean, if the Rockets had gone away together on camp, cooked marshmallows over a fire and bonded, I'm sure that they wouldn't have had all these sort of, locker room dilemmas and whatever have you, So part of it might just be that there is a time, everyone's got an expiration date, but, it all seems to be about expectations. When a team is expected to win 20 out of their first 30 games and does half as well, all of a sudden, the first thing you do is, it's got to be a coaching issue because the coach isn't somehow delivering or honoring his end of the agreement. But as we've spoken about before, the coaches are just the easiest thing to get rid of. And when you get a new coach, you get essentially a new direction or identity on the team, and it helps the PR and the owner sell it to the market.
Let's talk about the flip side of that, guys. During the offseason, the Spurs added to their already powerful squad by signing LaMarcus Aldridge at a discount. San Antonio is obviously used to discounts, considering how much their population stocks up on $15 all-you-can-eat buffets. But this is a situation here where the Spurs were able to add because they have a history of winning. They have a coach with stability. Is this the only way? Is this the only way to rope in these star players at a discount because you have to have a track record of the history of winning and stability? Is there any other ways to do it, or it just has to be someone like Popovich and the Spurs?
I think it depends on the. It's an individual thing with the star. I mean, I think LaMarcus made it clear that when you're going to go into these meetings, that I want a clear-cut plan of how we're going to win with this franchise. He had, these are rumors, but he had favorites. The talk was he favored Los Angeles or he favored another team. But when the meetings came and they said, okay, here's what we plan to do with you, and here's how we're going to get to win. If it doesn't sway him, you're not going to get him. So I liked how LaMarcus kind of handled it, which was, give me your pitch. I want to win, and how am I going to win? And they
he also did, Mo. He was like the bizarro DeAndre Jordan. It was almost like he did everything DeAndre didn't do or we expected of him. Plus, he also left the spotlight to not be in the spotlight. I mean, he didn't like the fact, he wanted the spotlight. Then they were, he conceded that too much of it was being given to Lillard. And then he said, I got to San Antonio where I don't have to worry about being the man. I could just go worry about, being a contender. And, these guys also know that they're only going to have pro careers of, between 10 and 15 years at best. So for LaMarcus, I guess maybe the clock was ticking, He just figured, I got to get out of here. I want to win a title. I want to be one of those guys. And, he bought into the philosophy. But only a handful of guys are able to develop one that actually is memeasurable to the players, man.
Well, guys, let's wrap up here. And just a couple of other off-court issues of last year's or off-court memorable moments, if you will. The Thabo Cephalosha injury, then arrest, then not guilty verdict, then lawsuit. Lamar Odom, obviously, is overdose and surviving that. And another one that jumped out is Flip Saunders dying of cancer back in October. So, we spoke about most of the off-season moves, but those are some other things that happened off the court in 2015. Just wanted to recap that, and that will conclude our second quarter.
That's right. Let's take a break. When we come back, we have our halftime segment here on the Full Court Report. See you guys in a few minutes. Don't go away.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on Sports5.ph.
It's halftime on the Full Court Report, and we use halftime as a way to move away from basketball and discuss pop culture. And today we are discussing our favorite hip hop artists and groups. Now, hip hop has had an interesting history to get where it is today. Starting in the early 1970s when DJ Kool Herc threw the first hip hop party on Sedgwick Avenue in the Bronx, to Sugar Hill Gang's Rapper's Delight, the first hip hop record on wax, to even Grandmaster Flash's Furious 5, The Message, when hip hop was still viewed as a fad, into Eric B. and Rakim ushering in the new school in '86, to the rise of West Coast hip hop and the expansion to the suburbs in the early '90s, followed by East Coast comeback igniting the coastal wars. Hip hop then splintered from there between the shiny suit era and the indie scene, only to see the rise of the South and hip hop becoming a commercial powerhouse in all reasons. And now to the current day where there's globalization, no boundaries, and it's a status as a form of pop music, hip hop has become a large part of not just basketball culture, but pop culture and life. And by the way, my favorite genre of music. So today, as I said, we're going to go around and find out who our favorite hip-hop artists and groups are. And Brad, over in Sydney, Australia, I know you're a big hip-hop head who grew up around the same time as me, so I'll dish it over to you.
Yeah, man. As far as solo artist goes, I guess the one that I've always been, the one who I've enjoyed the most, has always been Nas. I think that ever since he dropped Illmatic, when I first caught that, I actually didn't hit it in its debut year, but I heard it the year after, and then after that, it was game over. It was like everyone, since has been compared, and I don't think anyone's quite lived up to that. But as far as groups go, man, I'm going to go a little off the beaten path there. My favorite hip hop group is a little duo by the name of Black Star, Talib Kweli and Mos Def.
Brooklyn, New York City. They pay murals of
man, through and through. It's interesting. I mean, I've always been fond of, really sort of talented lyricists, and I like the DJ high-tech beats and everything to do with that sort of backpack sound, which actually has no correlation to the Twiddle handle. That's just a coincidence. So, for me though, like picking favorite hip-hop groups, man, it's so difficult. I could bore you all day with, like my 200 favorites, and I've flipped between Black Star and, a number of other groups, like between 700 and 700 times. But I'll stick with Black Star. If you haven't heard them yet, check them out. Raucous Records back in the day, man, is where it was at. So
Raucous
Records. I'll give up the microphone now. Yeah, man. Yeah, exactly.
All right, Justin, I'll shift over to you. Give me what I want to hear.
Let's see. I know I'm gonna get heat for this, but solo artist. I would have to go with, in my generation, Yeezy and Drake. I listen to them a lot, put them on loop.
Okay.
But in terms of group, I recently found a fascination for NWA just because I watched Straight Outta Compton, and I didn't know much about them because I was born in the year 1990. So since I saw the movie, I'm sorry, Chris, but yeah, when I saw the movie, it got me really interested with the history and how they perform.
These are the artists you picked, like before your time, huh? Nothing newer that you grew up with, nothing like that.
No, those are the ones I frequent.
All right. No one's laughing at you, man. Back to the classics. I like it. Good choices. Mo Twister, what do you got, Mr. Coldplay?
Listen, I grew up in the Philippines as a kind of like a teenager, so all my hip hop influences came as a younger person, so kind of as a child, so what I grew up with. So I would have to say my favorite group, I'm from Los Angeles growing up, so Cypress Hill was probably my favorite rap group. I like the Be Real's kind of distinct nasally voice and
membrane.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a lot of that kind of growing up was real cool for me. And then kind of as a solo artist, and taking a page from what Justin said, another very distinct voice that I enjoyed, and I think I like that high pitched delivery. And Eazy-E would be the one. His solo stuff, his Christmas stuff was all hilarious for me, kind of growing up. So I probably would kind of lean towards Eazy-E as best solo artist. When he had the solo albums, and then best group, it's probably Cypress Hill if I had to think one off the top of my head.
All right, cool. Well, I'll just go wax poetic here because that's what I do about hip hop. So if I had to go with my favorite group, well, no, I mean it's easy for me. It's Wu-Tang. It's the 9 members of Wu-Tang, and I'll always stick behind them every album they put out, and the great dominance they had from 93 to 97, 2 group albums, 5 solo albums in between, and as I called it, the 5-year plan. Brad said my favorite solo hip hop artist of all time, and that's fine. It's Nas, and of course his debut Illmatic is still considered the greatest hip hop album of all time. 9. 9 perfect tracks and 1 great intro. So since Brad took my Nas, which is I assume is gonna happen, which is fine, I'm gonna go with my other favorite MC of all time. Not a lot of people know him. He was first a part of the group. He was part of the his goes by MF Doom by the name now. If anyone sees me on the video, his picture is behind me up on my door. He's went by a lot of different incarnations in his career, from Daniel Dumoulin to MF Fuzz, MF Doom, different little names, but his name is
Victor
MF
Vaughn,
Doom.
man.
And what was that?
Victor Vaughn.
Yeah, Victor Vaughn, exactly. King Ghidorah. Yeah, that's my guy. So it's Nas, it's him next, and of course Wu-Tang Clan as a group. Also known as Zev Love X early in his career. So that's my guy, and that's what I love about hip hop. That just depending on the day or the week or the month, it could be another guy that you love. That's what music does in general, but that's what hip hop does.
Hey,
And,
Mo, I just want to say that I know you're a Cypress Hill fan. Whatever you do, don't listen to West Side Connection, because there's a track on there called King of the Hill, and Ice Cube basically destroys Cypress Hill. So please avoid that one, because man, it's one of the worst diss tracks in terms of one of the best diss tracks, basically. So you're a
Just
Cypress
as long
Hill
as
fan. Dodge it,
just as
man,
long as
please.
he doesn't do a Coldplay diss track, then I think we're going to get along fine. And by the way, I just want to remind everybody, just to tell you guys, is that I'm writing all this stuff down. I'm currently downloading Nas's, is it a 1994 album that I've never heard that album. Currently downloading it. So this is a learning experience for me. I'm not a hip hop head, but I'll answer the question. But at the same time, I'll learn from you guys and take this all in.
1999 Doomsday, 1999 Doomsday, 1993 36 Chambers Wu-Tang. Get that on there.
We'll do that right now. In the meantime, we take a break. When we come back, we have the second half of our show. You are listening to the Full Court Report. Don't go away. See you guys in a few minutes.
He has made viewers laugh with his funny antics and awesome style in comedy. He has also been in quite a few headlines himself. Well, funny man Arnel Ignacio loves good times too. Curious if he has funny secrets he'd like to spill? Then head on to www.tv5.com.ph/originals and watch Good Times with Mo. Thursday, 9 p.m. on Digital 5. Call us on our hotline, also on Viber and Skype.
Welcome back to the Full Court Report. It is the third quarter now that we're doing, and we're going to pass this off to Justin Sulit, who is in Manila, Philippines. Justin, you have third quarter duties at a 12-minute clock to start with. Buddy, what do you got for us?
2015 composed of 5.5 months of the past NBA season, and we're 2 months into the current one. You know we can't get out of this year without talking about the top storylines on court, since Chris took care of the off-court topics earlier. What do you guys have? What do you think were the top stories of 2015?
Oh, man. Let me jump in here and not take a Warriors thread, because I know Mo wants to sort of hog up 6 minutes of just Warriors talk.
Sure.
So let me just say that I think that the thing that we're going to remember from this year is LeBron's teammates and their injuries that sort of changed the composition of this year. I think that if Kyrie and Kevin Love were both healthy, I think this year would have a completely different sort of thread to it. And Kyrie and Kevin Love were looking good heading into the playoffs. And so for me, I sort of remember more about what LeBron did, even in defeat. I think he was super valiant and sort of flexed muscles that I didn't even know that he had. So for me, I'll remember what the Cavs didn't do versus what the Warriors actually did do. So in that cue, Mo, go ahead and wax their intellect.
Go ahead, Mo.
Well, I mean, I'll just make it quick. Obviously, the Klay Thompson moment, the 37-point third quarter NBA record, where he, was heat check after heat check. It was crazy heat checks, and everything was going in. If he ended up with 52 at the end of that game, which even that number it wasn't as impressive as that quarter was with the 37. So if we were talking about on-court performance, and that was this year, that was in January of this year.
Yep.
I gotta give him that. Steph has been better all year, but individual performance, at least in a 12-minute span, can't be Klay.
Yeah. Mo, I think they should have changed his nickname from Splash Brothers to Aquaman that night. I mean, he was just pure water.
Yeah, he was. It was gorgeous.
For me, for a story of just consistent, well, maybe not consistent, but on-court play that's getting a lot of media attention and is very recent, it's the play of Kristaps Porzingis, because he wasn't expected to do this well, and he is doing well, he is keeping up pace with Karl Anthony Towns in the Rookie of the Year voting. So when you talk about kind of memorable performances that are getting a lot of media attention, it's been the last couple months. If there's one that I could point to, and I'm not being facetious because it's a memorable moment here for one game that I'm going to remember for a long time because it's in his retirement year, and there was a streak on the line. It was Kobe Bryant's 1 for 14 versus the Warriors because it was the worst I've ever seen him play, and the Warriors were absolutely dominating everybody, and it was just like collision course of someone going down so hard and someone going up so hard. So it's going to be hard to forget that, and eventually I will over time because I don't think it'll be a huge stink on his legacy. But boy, I mean, I will remember that moment for a long time.
Oh, you talked about the current season, but I want to bring it back a little bit backwards to the past season. One of the best games, personally, I've seen, that Game 7 between the Spurs and the Clippers. Well, that was awesome, man. I think it was one of the highlights of 2015.
Sure.
Yeah, that's
Right, it might have been. It might have been the
series.
game of the year. I mean, it was two Titans going head to head. It was a bit of a shame that it was in the opening round, Judd. But
Right.
what is it? What is it? You're going to take away like the Chris Paul makeover Duncan? Like, what specific sort of stood out for you, man? Like, what sort of made that game resonate? What makes it memorable all this time, all these months later?
Yeah, actually, it was the Chris Paul because I'm a Laker fan, and when that
Is that
stuff
right?
went down against with David Stern and Chris Paul, man, it really broke my heart. And I was a fan of Chris Paul before that, but it sort of took away. I know it wasn't his fault, but it kind of took away a lot of my belief in the guy. But man, when he hit that shot over Duncan, that really put it back.
That was big. That was big.
Well, it
And then he went
changed.
back to Chris Paul of old after that.
Right. And it's interesting. I mean, it sort of momentarily changed the way everyone perceived him. It was like he had this hump that he had to get over. He did it. He sort of took down Pop's Spurs. Then they go to the next round and they are up 3-1 to the Rockets. And then James Harden and Josh Smith come out of nowhere. I mean, let's not talk about that game 6, man. James Harden put up one of those like magical playoff performances. I think he had a 40-point night, lots of assists, and then had like 12 turnovers the next night, I think.
Right.
Oh no, that was in the conference final, sorry, against Warriors. Yeah, like just super stunk it up. And it was like bipolar James Harden at his best. It was such an interesting year as the playoffs kind of unraveled that these teams just you never knew what you were gonna get. It was such a sort of crapshoot. But the one consistent, I guess, was Mo's Warriors. You got to concede it.
Yeah, but just kind of to look forward to what we're going to see in the next few months. I think this season is starting to get a bit more exciting than last season with the way the East is kind of lined up and them not being that sorry conference. It's such an interesting thing. I think a lot of these playoff positions and spots are going to be going down to the wire that we might be talking about all of these memorable moments come this time next year. But oh man, remember that early this year in the way the East kind of ended up in the regular season. We touched upon it last episode, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's just going to be an exciting time in the next few months as well.
Yeah, and I think 2015 sort of, I know it's been happening for quite some time now, but it sort of highlights the transition that we've been talking about even in the past episode, the transition in the evolution of the game. I think it got highlighted this year in just the way that players have evolved. Russell Westbrook, how many triple doubles strung up together. And speaking of that, we can dive in now into the strongest performances that you've seen throughout the year, maybe in terms of stats, efficiency, or just total domination. Mo, you mentioned earlier the 37-point quarter from Klay.
Yeah, but I think just kind of for this season, and not to just always sing the Warriors tune, it really is Steph. Now he's slowing down, and I'd like to see how this kind of ends up, as a personal. His personal year that he's having right now, this individual year that he's having, if he's going to be able to sustain it. There's some injuries that he's starting to, have, with his body, and some nights he might have to take off. But if we're talking about this season, it really is the thing that sticks out the most. That maybe CJ McCollum, as we talked about earlier, Paul George, those three guys have just been such revelations, and all of them going after that most improved player, or maybe at least Paul George comeback player. Right. Those are my big storylines for this season.
Now, I got one for you guys. Back in January of this year, it was so long ago, it feels like it was way before this year, but it was in 2015. Mo Williams, he scored 52 points in a game. Now, that was a performance that in itself deserves a lot of credit because Mo Williams did it, of all people, 52 points. That actually shocked me when I saw that.
Right, it's one of those situations where it's like back in the 90s, Dana Barros dropped 50 and it was like, oh my God, like when all of a sudden Tony Delk had 50-point games,
Right.
Antoine Jameson back-to-back 50-point games. And it seemed like on any given night, anyone in the NBA, earlier, in the 2000s and late 90s, whatever, could just sort of have these super hot nights. And I don't know if guys just weren't playing the same kind of D back then, if they weren't as sophisticated or what the story was. But yeah, man, I remember watching Mo. I mean, Mo Williams, sorry, he dropped that 52, and it kind of, I think, maybe even led like Sports Center or something, and everyone just had this sort of look of shock on their face, like it was almost like if that guy can drop 50, then what the hell is everybody else doing? It's like they were
but that could be a great overtime topic one day for us. Is like which guy just kind of went out there, scored 50 that we never thought could do it. Like Corey Brewer did it. I mean, he scored 51 once, and that's even worse than Mo Williams, because that's a defensive stopper. That's right. At least Mo Williams puts shots up. Corey Brewer is a defensive-minded guy. He did 51. So I think that's an interesting. Now, obviously, that wasn't this year. That was last year. But still, I think we should have a topic where we talk about these kind of people you would never think of.
You get these like super scores. Like it took Kevin Durant like 5 years to score 50 points in a single game, which was like, seems nuts given, how much, he was hovering around the sort of mid-20s and sort of early 30s and whatever. But yeah, look, as far as standalone performance goes, man, I watched the Cavs Spurs game where Kyrie Irving dropped the 57, and it was just scintillating. I mean, he was just hitting things that, he was perfect from the line. I think 7 from 7 from deep. And watching that game in real time was just, I thought it was a finals preview. I thought these were the two best teams in basketball. I never saw the Warriors winning 67 games. I thought that was never going to happen. And I really thought that Pop Spurs were going to sort of go back and LeBron was going to sort of extract his revenge with the Cleveland team rather than the Miami team. And it sort of felt like, LeBron did everything that game, but Kyrie was just on a whole other level. And I think that's why it hurt so much to see Kyrie get hurt, in the finals and thus sit out so much of this year as a result. Right. It's just that, when he's on, I mean, he can be a liability defensively, but that crossover and when his shot's going, man, I mean, he might be one of the purest, shooting sort of point guards that we've seen in some times. I mean, obviously Steph is, again, living in a whole different galaxy, but it just seems to me that people have forgotten how good Kyrie can be. And that to me is something that I'll always remember, like, sort of jumping out of the chair and like, oh my God, he's hit another three. That was impossible. Like, how did he do that? And the fact that the Cavs prevailed and LeBron's always had a hard time beating Duncan and the Spurs, and it took like the sidekick to sort of rescue him, I thought was a really sort of interesting, sort of subplot to that one.
Also, another one I remember, I know it was the 76ers, but a Westbrook had a triple-double, 49, I think 15 and 10.
And 10,
He was in full
abused them that game.
Like, full Ninja Turtle mode. He destroyed them. It was the Sixers, but still 49, 15, and 10. I don't care who you are. You could be playing in the playground. That's amazing.
I think at some point in the fourth quarter, he brought out the GIMP too. I think that, it was one of those, just he demoralized them.
Yeah, the coast-to-coast dunk.
It was great. So that was a great performance too.
And Russell was one of those players, though, that he's even more breathtaking in person. I mean, I've actually, not that I want to harp on about this, but had the pleasure of seeing him play, a number of games. And man, like, he is just something that you really need to sort of, at some point in your life, take a little visit to some Thunder game and just watch Ross in the open floor. It's, it reminds me of what Barkley was doing back in the 90s.
We have the chance to cover these guys on occasion, and I know now we're just kind of talking about Russ here, but he's as intense in warm-up, before the crowds in the stadium or in the arena, before any of that kind of round-robin going along. When he's just there with the coaches, he's intense, he's angry. He really is a specimen, man. You have to root for the guy.
Kobe, who's he passing the torch to? Well, maybe it doesn't have to be the type of game, but more the intensity, the work ethic, the way he goes about his game. And maybe Kobe's passing that torch to Russell Westbrook.
All right, just very quickly, I mean, we've talked about the points, stringing up 50 points, but I also want to talk about the performance of Andre Drummond, like getting 20 boards in a string of games. And, that's not very common nowadays.
No, it isn't. We talked about that before, like Wilt Chamberlain-esque, as Brad would say, but just be able to be the eye doctor 2020s all around. It's been very impressive.
Well, what did he put up earlier this season? He put up, a 29 and 27 game? I mean,
yes, he did.
look, I don't play fantasy basketball, but that was one day where I was like, man, I wish I was a gambler and did these sorts of things. But it was truly video game-esque. And what's interesting, though, is none of us have mentioned Anthony Davis, who's supposed to be a real stat stuffer. I thought that, for Davis being the emerging star, he hasn't really made that big of an impact, which I find fascinating.
But he's one of those guys on any given night can go ahead and do something like, Russell Westbrook did, where he can do 43, 21, 12 blocks. And you're like, oh my God, where was this? It would be nice to see him consistently dominate, which is not happening this season.
My point was, and I know we're out of time here, but my point is, like, we should have been like dying to like, oh my God, did you see Anthony Davis put up the 40, 20, 12 or whatever the case is? But he just doesn't quite seem to be there just yet. So
Will be. He
Sure.
will be. I don't think there's a question.
he'll definitely be there. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we have our fourth quarter. You're listening to the Full Court Report. Back after this. Don't go away.
A Sports5.ph original web show.
My name is Dominic Uy, and this is my buddy Kevin Limhoco.
We are going to be testing products to their nth degree, to their limits.
Cars.
How many car makers are not equipped with power steering?
Gadgets.
You feel the value of that watch.
And everything in between.
I don't like to pamper myself except in a restaurant.
This is the web show for the modern man.
Oh, let's go!
Nth degree. Catch it exclusively on sports5.ph.
All right, welcome back to the Full Court Report. It is quarter number 4. I am taking point guard duties for this, so let's go ahead and throw 12 minutes up on the clock for myself, and let me talk about something that, I'll lead it with this, and then I want to get on to a kind of a more general topic about this kind of behavior. Well, a few nights ago, the Kings were in Golden State to take on the Warriors. They were up by 2 in the third quarter when DeMarcus Cousins lost his mind again and got ejected from the game. Clearly, DeMarcus is the best player on that Sacramento team, arguably the best center in the NBA. And when you're facing a team like the Warriors and you have the lead in the second half, you can't do things like this where you get a technical foul, you get frustrated, and to a certain extent, almost like wanted to get that second technical just to really, for some reason, kind of prove his point, which is so detrimental for his team because they're not getting blown out. They're not down by 30. They're up by 2 to Golden State. And you need this. Like, you don't need it maybe for playoff aspirations or whatever, but you need this game because this is a team that has owned you in some historical run that you can't beat. And now you have a chance right here. You lose your best player. And this is something I think we see DeMarcus, at least in the past, he seems to be a little bit better about it this season. But we've seen him kind of this lapse in judgment and him being so important for this team and how I just don't think it'll ever translate into long-term success for him. I mean, he's always going to be a promising, talented, potential, these words that you're going to throw out at him, but it's never going to equate to winner. It's a guy who can't win 30 games in a season, and I don't know if it's because he's volatile. I mean, this game alone, you had Omri Caspi having a career night. I think he hit 9 threes. He had 36 points. You have Rajon Rondo, who's playing at an all-star level. He struggled a little bit in that game, but Darren Collison picked him up. You have Rudy Gay, who's still well above average as an NBA player. You have a chance here to beat the Warriors, and you go out and get yourself kicked out of the game when you're up by 2 in the third. So I just kind of wanted to ask you guys, can a head case, a volatile personality that's a star, ever win a championship? Have we ever seen it? Or is this something that, you know what? Listen, DeMarcus, we might have to trade you now because we're not going to get anywhere with this kind of behavior. He's got 6 coaches now, I think in 7 years, DeMarcus Cousins has. I mean, at one point, you're going to have to blame this guy for what's going on in Sacramento and their inability to be successful there. So let's go ahead and talk about DeMarcus a little bit, and then I want to throw the question out is, can you have a volatile superstar and still win in this league? What do you think what do you think Sacramento needs to do first with DeMarcus? Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I mean, they need to keep his services because his talent and his upside and his ceiling are there. And if they don't, someone will pay for his services. It's just a reality of the league because he's so talented. Now, you asked the question, can a malcontent win at this level? Or if you're asking if a malcontent can win, as a number one, then I don't know. It's never happened before, to my knowledge, at least not in the kind of in the modern day NBA. Has a malcontent been able to be a part of a team with other stars and win and be in the right system? Yes, we've seen it before. We've seen Mark Aguirre in Detroit do it. We've seen, of course, Dennis Rodman in Chicago do it. So we've seen malcontents play within a system with other stars to do it. As a number one, I don't think there is a track record of that, but Cousins is going to always get a chance to play as long as his level of play stays as high and his ceiling of potential is as high as well.
Right, but should Sacramento then trade him because you're not going to find a player better than DeMarcus?
No, that's why they shouldn't. That's why they shouldn't. They're not going to. Just try to work it the hell out, man. He's so good. Try to work it out.
How are they working out? They fire every coach every year. I mean, I just don't understand what's going on with that organization. I agree with you that, you know what? Don't trade him because it's a rare thing to have a dominant big man these days, and you might as well embrace it. But dude, if you're going to be a bottom feeder every single year, and you got an owner at least who says he wants to win.
How old is the
I
guy?
feel like you're gonna have to pull. He's 25 years old, if I'm not mistaken, or 26
Maybe
years old. He's still
he needs to grow up a little more. If not, then he's going to run himself into the ground. But they can't get rid of someone who's that talented who plays that position. They just can't do it.
What's interesting here is the fact that I know Chris sort of mentioned Dennis Rodman before, but like even though Rodman was a lunatic and he was kind of a disruptive force, he still played his heart out, and I think that's what seems to be the problem here with DeMarcus.
Yes.
It's like he doesn't quite sort of compete at Rodman's level. He lets things get under his skin. I mean, I could only imagine if Rodman was in the league now, Rodman would sort of, do things that Draymond Green is doing and really sort of irritate him, knowing that he's going to get, technical fouls and complaints of the referees and, he's unhappy that he didn't get his way or a call or his shots aren't falling or whatever the case may be. Maybe he's a fragile personality. I think that's fine. I think you can manage that. I think that you can surround him with talent, which I think will go a long way. Maybe just years and years of losing has, taken some sort of psychological toll on him. But we've seen Rasheed Wallace in Portland be the man and almost guide them to a championship.
Right.
I think, that was a case where, he was getting 41 Ts in a season, creating new records. But then you move him over to...
You say almost, but that Portland team, and we talked about this off air, should have won a championship.
Yeah,
do you think that it's because of that malcontent?
They had the talent. They had the talent. They just didn't quite, I think Dunleavy, the coach at the time, was part of the problem with why they couldn't do it. They just didn't have the right manager for those guys, Sabonis and Stoudemire and these guys. I mean, the Jailblazers were all problematic, but man, they were damn talented. They're much more talented than this current Sacramento Kings team is.
Winning championships is a whole nother ball of wax. You want to try to compare the two, but it's whether you have the best players and none of them are malcontents, you might not win because it's so hard in the NBA because you have dynasties, teams that win back.
Just mentioned Aguirre was perfect situation. Rodman was perfect situation. Like Charles Barkley was a real force of personality, and then he got to the Suns and.
Yep, he didn't win, and Rasheed Wallace didn't win. There's a couple other guys that didn't win, but they got right there. Dwight Howard, for all the joking aside, he's a malcontent, but he's very talented. He's been to a finals. He's been to a Western Conference Finals. I mean, he doesn't win a title. If we're just talking titles, then no, then DeMarcus Cousins may never get to that level. There's no reason why DeMarcus Cousins can't be at that level. Howard.
I mean, he's never shared the screen, if you want to use a movie comparison, he's never shared the screen with other cast members that are also in contention for awards. I think, he's always lived on an island, and I think that's part of the problem. We've really got to see him with some talent, before we know, because you see him, like at All-Star Weekend, he blends with these guys. Maybe it's going to take, Coach Calipari to come up from Kentucky to be the coach of Sacramento to sort of set him straight, or, John Wall to, Bledsoe, someone from those sort of famed squads to reunite to sort of find out if it's,
right,
more of just him wanting to relive something else, or whether it's just, I don't know. This guy, as I sort of had mentioned, just doesn't quite have the personality fit.
I would be more worried about a Carmelo Anthony type than a DeMarcus Cousins type. I truly would. Carmelo Anthony, who maybe reached his potential, never showed the commitment, especially on the defensive end. Who was more about him than the team. Maybe DeMarcus Cousins is there, but he gets fired up in these situations for a reason.
But is Carmelo costing him his team a win because of his attitude? I mean, maybe I've seen Carmelo play. He's putting his heart out there. They're not winning because maybe he's not good enough, and his team's not good enough. But DeMarcus is losing. He's losing because of his attitude, and he's losing games because of his attitude.
Attitude is probably easier to adjust than someone who just has no commitment to defense and is a me first guy when it comes out there and play. I would think DeMarcus, I would rather have issues than Carmelo Anthony's issues.
The other thing here is, and it's why it's so tough to compare eras, is that when Rashid was playing and Barkley and some of these other guys, Rodman, whoever, like the game was refereed a little differently. Like I think part of this might be DeMarcus. You know, I've seen it all throughout this most recent season, especially. Like you're seeing calls being made that you're like, refs, what are you doing? Like I think the quality of refereeing isn't helping the situation. I'm not saying it's the blame here, but I don't think it's helping. I don't think DeMarcus should be tossed for, complaining to the ref or saying stuff. I mean, I remember Iverson, going up to referees and swearing at them point blank, but they were never tossing Iverson out of a game. I mean, it seems to just be a bit sort of odd that, maybe we are picking on DeMarcus, or maybe, it is it's a whole cluster of things, but
there's another one. Iverson made it to a finals and won MVP. There's another one right there.
Sure. All right.
But DeMarcus, I think, just to sort of, I guess, make a final takeaway on DeMarcus, if that's what's needed here, is that he hasn't necessarily proven himself yet in the eyes of most experts, in that, Dwight Howard, Carmelo, these other guys, they've all sort of put up numbers and actually guided their teams to winning seasons. DeMarcus is still missing that from his resume.
Sure. It's funny. I'm going to go to a next topic, but, I just quickly Googled DeMarcus Cousins now, and I hit images, and about 80% of the photos that kind of show up is him pissed off. It's actually really interesting if you kind of just do it yourself. It really is funny. It's him complaining, mad, frowning, angry.
It's the whole Kevin Garnett thing all over again, wherein like he's so exaggerated, he's so big, and he's so sort of animated when he's on the court. He throws his arms out. I mean, that's a 7'4" wingspan right there. It's just one of those things that, of course the audience is, he's going to draw eyeballs to him. I mean, he's such an interesting physical figure, and you can't help but, just stare at DeMarcus. I mean, he's a physical freak. So, he just makes it a circus. He's just
all right. Speaking of physical freaks here, real quick, December 30 is LeBron James's birthday. Whether you listen to this kind of after that or prior to that or whatever, LeBron, happy birthday! He's turning 31 years old. Really quickly, we only have you have less than 2 minutes here. Well, what do you guys want to give LeBron for a birthday gift here? If there's something that you can give him.
I want to give him a healthy Kyrie and Kevin Love so we can make it competitive for the finals. Of course, we want to see a competitive finals, whether the Warriors are better or not. Let's get a competitive finals, which we didn't get really last year. And also, I want to give him like maybe a direct phone line to Chris Bosh a little more so they can work out their feelings. If LeBron's feeling down on himself, he can call Chris and Chris can call him, and they can just kind of work it out, hug it out a little bit. So I want to give him that for his birthday too.
Justin, what do you want to give LeBron for his birthday here? He turns 31.
I would want to give LeBron a Jumbotron message from Michael Jordan. Maybe that would inspire him a little bit and get him going.
Sure. Brad, 30 seconds. What do you got?
LeBron for his birthday. What do you get the man that's got everything? It's a really good question. You know what? LeBron, for your birthday, I'm going to make sure you never have to wear a sleeved jersey again. That's what I'm going to give you.
There you go.
I'll give you the right to stay in singlets till the day you retire. I'm going to bury you in a singlet when it comes time to do that. So, man, no sleeves for you, LeBron. That's what I'll give you for your birthday.
Real quick, my gift for LeBron is just more rest as we get to the to the playoffs, because as Chris said, we want a really great kind of playoffs and finals. Want to see LeBron there. I think he needs some rest. He, even though he's 31, there's a lot of minutes, a lot of miles on those legs. I want the window of opportunity for him to win in Cleveland to be a few more years and not just this year or next year, which it kind of has that feel to it. I want him to be a threat for at least 4 or 5 years to win another championship and win one there in Cleveland. The way he's going, but boy, I feel like the window of opportunity for him is this year and next year, and that's it. So I don't know. We'll see. But he is 31. Happy birthday, King. We'll take a break. When we come back, we have the overtime segment here. You're listening to the Full Court Report. Don't go away.
He has made viewers laugh with his funny antics and awesome style in comedy. He has also been in quite a few headlines himself. Well, funny man Arnel Ignacio loves good times too. Curious if he has funny secrets he'd like to spill? Then head on to www.tv5.com.ph/originals and watch Good Times with Mo. Thursday, 9 p.m. on Digital 5. Call us on our hotline, also on Viber and Skype.
We're hitting overtime here in the full court report, and we steer off just
Look
a
at the
little
rookie.
bit. Talking about sort of basketball still. It's near the end of 2015. We're diving into 2016 head on, and just want to throw it off to you guys. Your bold predictions for the new year of basketball.
Well, listen, why don't we do this? Since we were talking about our favorite moments earlier of 2015 in the year, why don't we kind of attack this of what we think we're going to be talking about this time next year, when we're like, oh, okay, maybe like a prediction that is a memorable one that's really going to stand out for this calendar year. So, yeah, I mean, I like this question, Justin. How do we – okay, well, I got to think of one here. A prediction for this season. Brad, I know you had one off air that you had a couple off air. Why don't we throw one out to you first?
Here's my thing. I think this season is going to do something really odd, which is relegate essentially Kevin Durant to the All-NBA second team. I don't think he deserves that spot, but I just, for whatever reason, think that Kawhi Leonard and LeBron will be recognized come the end of the year. And my prediction is we'll see Kevin Durant on the All-NBA second team. And I think he's going to be so mad about it that he's going to come back the next season and he's going to just wipe the floor with everyone in the NBA.
Wizards.
So,
For the Wizards.
well, again, pending where he actually ends up. But I think he'll stay in Oklahoma City, but that's a topic for another day. But, yeah, I think Kawhi Leonard gets a spot on the All-NBA first team. That's my prediction for this coming year. So we'll see. Kawhi, don't let me down.
Great. Well,
What about you, Justin? Or Chris, you go first.
Yeah, sure. So I have two. Number one, I will say this. This will be bold. That Doc Rivers and Austin Rivers will become the number one father-son duo in NBA history. They will pass LeBron and Delonte West for that top spot of all time. Number two, Karl Anthony Towns will pull ahead of Kristaps Porzingis and become far and away the best rookie of this season and go into his second season as right there at one level below a bona fide superstar, just getting there. So we're going to see at the end of 2016 him not only wrapping up a Rookie of the Year, but also starting his second season very, very strong.
Real quick, you think Towns is going to be the superstar of that group and not Wiggins?
Towns will be a superstar. That he'll be better than Wiggins. He'll be a superstar, frontline superstar in the NBA one day. Top two, top three.
Man, that's getting crowded in the front court. You've got Anthony Davis. You've got Blake Griffin. You've got all these.
I say top one, two, or three NBA teams. I'm not saying first team. I'm saying
no. But that's what I'm saying. Like the poor man's Anthony Davis. Like Anthony Davis, where he was.
I don't think he's gonna be a poor man in anything.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
I really like his game, and I really like his game and how it works in the NBA and in the T-Wolves system so far.
All right. You got another one?
Kevin got some credit. Yeah.
Nope. Those are mine. That's what we got.
That's what you got. How about you, Justin? What do you got? Give me one good prediction that we're going to look forward to this year.
Well, looking forward to the NBA Finals in June. I think it's not a bold prediction to say the Warriors are going to be there and they probably are going to win it all. But I don't see the Cavaliers challenging them for it. I don't see this. I don't know, man. I have a feeling that the Heat, if ever they face the Cavs in the playoffs, I think they have a good chance of knocking the Cavs out.
What a slap in the face to LeBron that would be.
On his birthday, too. Mine.
Damn. Oh, sorry, the king.
Yeah.
I'm torn on this one. I'm trying to think of one thing that I want to really happen or that it's really going to happen just so I could feel right. Okay, fine. We were talking about 50-point games earlier. We were talking about 50-point games earlier. I think maybe Paul George gets, before the season ends, he's going to get like a 56-point game. I know he was close early. He had a 48 earlier this year. But I think to really solidify his comeback and to really kind of just say, everybody, listen, no doubts about my leg, no doubts about my ability. I'm back to superstardom. He's going to throw down a mid-50-point game.
You're messing around with us, right? He dropped 57 tonight. You're messing around with us, right? He dropped 57 tonight.
No, he
that's
didn't.
different.
Oh man, scared the hell out of me. Okay, but that's gonna happen. It's gonna happen within the year. I absolutely feel it.
you think that you think Paul George has more chance of dropping 55 in a game than the Warriors have of winning 73?
No, I think the Warriors are going to win 73. I think that's not that bold of a prediction anymore. The way they look, and if health kind of keeps up, they're absolutely on the way to 73. I totally feel that they're going to do that. So
Undefeated
I want to. No, they're not going to go undefeated at home. They'll lose one.
Wow,
perhaps.
I can't believe you said that. Wow, how dare you? How dare you say that about my Warriors?
I'm sorry, Chris. I know that you're very sensitive about them, but yeah, no, I definitely think they're going to go to 73. It's going to be a big story, but I don't think it's going to be that shocking, at least to me at this point. All right, well, that's it for our episode for today and for this year. Again, Justin, thanks for being here and subbing in for Jinno. Maybe we'll see you again sometime in 2016 if Jinno keeps taking these vacations to the beach and whatnot. But to the rest of you guys who listen to us, we want to just say thank you. We appreciate you. I know we started off only in the latter part of 2015, but we ask you to support us, to interact with us come 2016 as we bring more of this program and we make it even better for this year. So, gentlemen, Chris, Brad, Justin, Jinno, Happy New Year to all of you guys, as well as to our listeners.
Happy holidays,
and,
guys.
I don't want to be the only one talking about it. So you guys go ahead. Give me your last word for 2015. What do you got, Brad?
I was just going to say that I think Jutt might be Kathy Bates here. He might have Jinno in a bed somewhere with a broken leg, and he just says it's on vacation.
Misery.
But I think he's gone. He's gone on misery on him. Exactly. But our final word of this year, personally, absolutely over the moon that Kevin Durant's back and his form has returned, and I think the Thunder are going to be super dangerous in 2016. That's one team I think everyone should be worried about. So yeah, let's see how that one plays out. And if you want to hit me up at Backpack Baller on Twitter, always happy to have a chat and direct message me, whatever. I'll follow you, follow me. You know how it goes. Man, thanks for listening, thanks for the support, and look forward to more of it in 2016.
Sounds good, Chris.
You could follow me at not Bill Walton. In 2015 was my worst year on social media, but 2016 will be my best. So get ready for that. As we close a chapter on one and take a step to the next, you will see explosiveness like a young LeBron coming from my social media properties. Thanks, guys.
Sounds good. All right, Justin, real quick, another quick plug for your social media accounts, and we'll call it a night.
First of all, thank you guys for having me. Today's year has been nothing short of awesome. Hit me up at Jutt Sulit, JUTTSULIT, both on Twitter and Instagram.
Sounds good. All right, guys, we'll see you next year. We will be back first week of January. So, don't worry, you're not going to miss us that long. We're not going to take a vacation or anything, but we are putting a close to this 2015 right here at the Full Court Report.
Yeah,
that's
buddy.
right. We'll see you guys next year. Have a good night. Have a good
guys.
holiday. Enjoy your new year, everybody. Bye-bye.